Hello and welcome to the podcast from Duendelvin. I'm Corbin, and in today's podcast we'll be exploring the world of Savarion. Here we have Jeff and Kyle. Today we're going to be talking about the Muskerperts, or lizards.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm excited about this one. This is gonna be good.
So, what do the Muskerperts look like besides lizards?
I'll do the best I can to verbally express that. We have some good imagery. Like I said, it's Adam Barker, right?
Adam Barker, yes.
Yeah, he was our original artist, and his work was absolutely wonderful. I mean, still is, but
Well, if you go to our Instagram or Facebook page and look up Bukua, that's the leader during the fall, the board game, but that's the generic outlook. But
absolutely.
Go ahead with your...
So they are bipedal. They have lizard tails, and yeah, they're just humanoid in nature. They have claw hands, and one of my favorite parts about them is they have frills that have various functions, like that when they get excited, they can flap open, kind of like the
Lizards?
the Dilophosaurus.
From Jurassic Park.
Yeah, from Jurassic Park. How it would fall down, and then it'd pop up and like.
Frilled lizards still exist and do that.
That's true. That is very true. But as my brain was like, we're on Jurassic Park because anyway.
Spit venom in people's face.
Ours do not spit venom at people. Instead, they spit magic.
And I don't have venom, but fireball.
And their colorations, their scales depend on the magic they have access to. When they're born, it kind of more depends on the family they're born to. They're born to individual pairings. They're not clutches of eggs that are hatched. They don't have hatcheries. That's kind of a big deal. Our lizards are warm-blooded, not cold-blooded. And like I said, their appearance is vibrant. Even though they live in a very enclosed environment that's lit up only by bioluminescent plants. They don't see the sun unless they venture outside of their land.
And yet they're still bright?
Oh, absolutely. They're absolutely like...
So do they just stick out like a sore thumb in their home?
Well, yeah, because I mean they're the apex for their environment. No one's going to try and womp on them because if they do, they're going to get blasted with fireballs, or they're going to get slammed with ice because as we talked about before, our Muskerperts are magic masters. So that's kind of what they look like.
On that note, what is their divine purpose? We touched on it lightly in previous episodes.
So their divine purpose, given to them by Parvocon and Veritas Sanctus, is to further magic. Okay, and yeah, we touched on it in one of the earlier episodes, but I don't know that there's a more dynamic way to really say that. The purpose of them is to see, so we're going to use fire because it's the most straightforward. But, I can create fire in my hand and then I can throw it at you, right? Would be a real basic fireball. So anybody who had the affinity towards fire would go to the fire school
or temple.
And then that core group of people would see what they can do with fire. Like, what are the full capabilities of fire? Can I just carry it in my hand and use it to intensify the light, but not its heat, so that I can create more light using fire? Can I light something on fire and have it stay on fire? Can I light candles at a distance? Can I put them out at a distance? But then it would go into further, how much control do I have over fire? Can I take the power of the sun and direct it at somebody? And, and everything in between, right? If I throw a fireball at you, can I make it so that you burn at a amount that I want you to, or not burn? Can I warm the place without actually lighting anybody on fire? So that's an example using fire, but really the focus is, what are my maximum capabilities with fire that I can do. And every single school would have that kind of outlook towards it. And so their divine purpose revolves around that.
So the Muskerperts play with magic and see what they can do with it?
What all can I do?
Oh,
with
yeah.
it?
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So they'll use something basic and do something completely weird with it?
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially, yeah.
But they definitely keep it localized. If you are a fire wielder, you don't branch out to be like, what if I added wind to my fire? No. That's somebody else's department. And that's when you come together and do group work. They were very pure in their pursuit. I am a fire mage. I will master and learn and progress the tree of fire, and only the tree of fire.
So if you branched, you talked about this a little bit. They change color, yes?
Yes.
So would they change color again if they branched out?
Their scales would definitely reflect if they started to mix in another.
So that if they were a fire mage and a earth mage, would they be brown and red?
Their coloration
Green.
Yeah, it'd be green or like an earthier tone. So brown as well. It could be brown. It could be red. So they could look like brick, effectively.
Brick lizards.
I'm a red brick lizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you would see that reflected on their scales almost at a percentile.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were a little bit, messing with the earth and mostly fire, they would be red with some either green or brown. Whereas if it was the other way around, they'd be fully brown with a little bit of red.
So like tips or hints of?
Just hints of, think
Little
like
splotches.
scales, right? Like
You'd have
they weave.
like a group of like 4 odd-colored scales. If you,
Potentially,
like-
or a pattern that would move
or
through
a
your
pattern.
Yeah, well, okay, so let's use hard numbers, and it would be a variant, but let's say like scales overlay, right?
Yeah.
Like a fish or a
Like
lizard or
feathers.
whatever, right? More like a lizard than feathers, but
But they all overlay.
body. Yes.
yes. So let's say that it's a green earth with red fire, right? And so you have, so this would be 100% of the scales. Let's say I'm only 10% red. Okay, so this scale is red.
Okay.
And the rest of them are green, right? So the body would do that kind of thing, and so it would relevantly reflect your coloration.
So how do they find out what color they are and what like house they are they born with a specific color and a magical affinity from their parents, or
Essence is wild and unpredictable because it's all a natural pulling. So like there is an event that happens, and sometimes for some people essence fulfills a purpose, right? So if they're like, I need to save somebody's life and I need to reach out to them and I can't reach them, I'm going to use wind magic to push them out of the way. Wham! Oh no, I am an actual wind mage. I have wind essence. Or they're like in a fight, or they need to defend somebody. Suddenly they have unlocked the guardian tree, and they're like, aha, my instincts are protective. That kind of stuff. So it's all happened there. So their scales would reflect that usually this event would happen naturally through puberty. So anywhere from 12 to 16 in that time frame, years of age, would one of the Muskerpert activate their essence tree. It's been known to happen younger. It's been sometimes been later in life. You have some late bloomers. And so it's not always coincided with puberty. It just more often than not happens that way. And yeah, you would see an immediate shift in their scale patterns. Like their scale colors would almost shift instantly as they touch that essence. So it's a direct reflection.
so what color would they be before they unlock their essence?
It would be more along their environment. They could be blue, green. Like they would be very vibrant, and then it would be no hints. Honestly, you could have an entirely brown lizard suddenly tap into wind, and then they're just laced with light blues and like vibrant whites.
So they just completely change appearance?
The influence of the moons and the essence that they have access to would reflect that. Now, if they were arcane, their scales would change when they got baptized, effectively receiving arcane power, and then they would go into the ice blues, the water colorations, the dark greens,
Is
really
it
cool stuff.
possible that you're a completely brown lizard and then you tap into the earth and you stay brown?
Yeah.
It would be a different brown.
Mm-hmm.
It would be
So
different brown.
your
So
coloration would be like
Flat and like
yes,
Yeah.
like it's bright and vibrant, but think like a flat color. And then once you've touched the essence or the arcane or the mundane at some point when that all gets introduced, your scales would shift from a flat color to whatever relevant color, but a shiny color.
So you
Does that make
basically
sense?
become shinier?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
We have shiny Pokemon only, not
Shiny.
Do they like shed to get these new scales, or does it just happen overnight?
the essence intakes. Makes their body like radiate. Like
So
you can
do
see
their
the power.
scales have some essence like properties?
There's no. I mean, everything has essence properties, yeah. Because everything is made of essence. Is the material that makes things move, right? That's what we describe it as. Because there's the body, which is the housing, the soul, which exists within, and then the essence is the intermediary between the two. It's there, and yes, you can drain it. You can fully like, suck the essence out of something.
The easiest way, the way that I think about it,
Okay.
is like before they touch essence or arcane, right? So think that the scales have a liquid that flows through them. Okay, it's not this way, but this is how I think of it. Think the essence or there's a liquid flowing through it, right? And it gives it its color and its flatness. As soon as they touch essence, that liquid is now like a gel instead of like a flat liquid. Does that make sense? So now the liquid flowing through it is shiny. And so literally it would be like if I'm, let's say I touch the light and I become a light mage, right? And I'm like this grayish brown color, right? But it's the flat color, and I don't know why I'm all of a sudden like the most monotone color possible. But I reach out because my friend is getting hurt, and I touch the light essence to heal them, right? You would literally, like if you were watching it happen from a distance, you would see this brown dude who's like pale, right? Like a flat brown, all of a sudden be like a shiny gold color, right? And not like it glows shiny, but like on your shirt where the yellow is.
Right here?
Okay, so see how it's not like giving off light, but it is still yellow?
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden it would be like a shiny that. And you'd be like, oh, that guy's a light mage.
Right.
So
Do you have to
that's
go
how
into the light?
Don't go to the light.
I can't help it.
So that's how I envision like the introduction of the color to their lifestyle.
So if they have enough control over their own essence, can they shift how they look?
No, I never really thought about it in that regard. I don't think they could actually adjust their appearance. I think it just kind of happens based on their subconscious. Like they don't have active control over I can do this. Now they have active control over their frill, absolutely, but
You
not.
know how you can breathe and it just happens naturally, and if you focus on it, you can change how you breathe?
Yes.
Would their scales be like that, or is it just once it happens, it's done?
No, 'cause once it happens, it reflects and then it changes. And then the only thing that would change would be if you were to open up a new tree and take that power, that essence power in, or if you were to continue to advance. I feel like there's a change there as your power progresses. You become a more suffused coloration.
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking that because you can add more, and like I would understand if you like couldn't get rid of it, but if you could like move the way your scales look.
So think this is a divinely inspired change.
So you
in
can't
their
mess
life.
with it unless
yeah,
God
I don't
lets
I don't
you.
have control over it. It's just how I adapt. And so as I become more proficient in a secondary magical capability, my scales would alter, but I'd have no control over which ones changed.
Yep.
Okay.
And you can camouflage that. You could just try and hide your coloration through
I guess you could paint
paint.
yourself.
Yep, you could try and paint yourself to be something you're not, but that's only going to work for so long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So we just got asked what would each individual magic type look like. So I think the 4 elemental magics are pretty straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Your fire is going to be red. Your earth is going to be browns and greens. And then your air is going to be more like your whites and grays.
Yep.
and then your water is going to be your blue tones. All right, so then we have the light and the dark. So your light is going to be
White and gold.
white and gold, but a more less of the air where like air is going to be more like an off-white kind of a color.
So air would look like a tornado colors.
Yeah,
And then
that's a good way to describe
and then
it.
the light's just like bleached.
I got sunshine.
Yeah.
Bleach and bleach white and gold. Yeah, like
Bleach
a pure
white
white.
and
silver.
And silver.
Yeah.
Because there's three of each, so it would be like a bright white, like marble, and then like a
silver.
a shiny silver, and
A gold-hued white.
yeah. And then your dark would be more of your like onyx color,
You get that
where it's
deep,
a little
that
shiny
deep
black.
purple as
Your
well.
dark purple.
Yep.
And then the third one is I'm drawing a blank.
As far as like where the darkness would be,
Where the third one is.
Red?
it would be a deep. It would be like a deep purple and a deep blue. It'd be very
Deep
dark
blue.
tones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
Do the corruption trees have colors? Or do they just kind of... Because this isn't from the gods, so how would their scales react to corrupt
well, so
trees?
we still have the marshal and skirmisher. and
True.
then,
There's still the marshal.
Oh.
So martial, you're gonna have your martial colors are more chromatic. So like when you look at a car's paint job and like you walk down and it has like a different change of color.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you look at it this way, it looks purple, and if you look at it this way, it looks blue, and so it's chromatic, right? And so that's gonna be your blue, your red, and your orange. No, red would be orange. Blue, red, and green would be your three martial colors. So it would be like, and when you looked at it, it wouldn't be straight green like an earth mage would be, but it would have like an off green, and it would change, like that scale
So
color
like
would
when
change.
you look at an oil spill on the road,
Yeah,
Kinda, yeah.
yeah, that would be a right
it's
way to
just
look
like
at
a
it.
mix of colors, and when
Yeah.
you move, it also moves.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're gonna have more of the steel patterns. Like whenever you get into the skirmisher, you're gonna have like a gray to a black to a, like that kind of.
Like your chromes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like more shiny.
Okay.
And then the corruption is going to take what would naturally be there and just that discordant but in color format. So I can think like gonna be your neons. Actually, I think like they would be almost like an affront to the eyes. It would
So
take it.
they're gonna
and,
like hurt your eyes to look at.
yes, corruption is going to be the neon shenanigans. And I believe that was my buddy, who was. The question came from Davey. If you don't mind me throwing his name out. I
Was
could
it
be wrong.
DT? What did you write?
DTV tricks.
DTV tricks?
What did he
Okay.
say?
Is that what you wrote? Sorry, I'm trying to understand. Says hello, or had a question?
It didn't sound like he has a question.
Oh,
Okay.
okay. Just
Just
DTV
hi.
saying, "Hey, what's up?
Cool.
Well, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in." All
So
right.
I think that covers our color sets.
Yep.
Do the mundane trees have a color? And would the performer have a color?
Ooh. So the performer, I think, was going to be like not think like if I remember this right, that performer is going to be. I think ribbons
Ribbons?
is the best way. Like almost like Christmas ribbons is what's popping into my head. Very shiny, very glittery, very flamboyant, very hypnotic. And then the colorations would vary all over the place.
That actually makes sense,
But
because
glittery.
if they're dancing and their colors hypnotize you, so would the Muskerperts be a more effective performer?
It doesn't. I mean, if we're going tabletop rule sets, it doesn't actually make a difference.
Tabletop, no, but role playing game? What?
That's
That's
something
what
role
tabletop
playing.
is.
Yeah, sorry, role playing
Oh.
game wise, it wouldn't make a difference other than because what makes them more magic oriented in the role playing game is that they have access to more magic at the start of the game.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's no physical representation. Thanks, Dave.
Sorry, Dave.
Let's finish this thought and then go to that. So
Great question.
because the performer tree was created by the Savarion Knights and mundane magic was created by mundanist, that's all created magic.
Yep.
And so the Muskerperts who use any of that magic would be the glittery, right? And so mundane magic would produce that as well as performer
Mundane
magic.
is glittery in every color.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
It will reflect more the color you were born in.
but you
It would
become
just be-
glittery
oh, yeah.
instead of shiny.
You sparkle like a vampire in the sunlight.
It's like glitter sparkles. It's like glitter sparkles.
No,
No, our vampires don't glitter in the sunlight either.
no, they die.
They don't always die, but yes, technically. If they stay too long in the shadows and they try to walk out in the sunlight, then they're gonna die.
They
They're gonna
die
burn.
halfway every time.
A little piece of them burns away every time.
A little piece of it burns away.
Not physically,
I
but
die a little bit every time I go outside.
and then I get really hungry and I have to go feel better again.
All right, so before we continue talking about the Muskerpert, Davey had a question about the for the Minotaur?
The pleasure house for the Minotaur. And if I'm understanding that, like you're gonna have to give me a little more on that
You want to
question.
know the name of their crack house?
No,
No. Can you specify what exactly you're asking? Because I don't know that we've ever even talked about that, so I'm not sure what you're asking. But I'd love to cover it. I just need a more specific question.
because I don't think there's actually a specific name for the pleasure house and that kind of stuff, but they would exist in any society. You would have the oldest profession in the world would still be a viable thing in every single city, and I'm sure there's places where you could. Especially because in this time in the world of Savarion, when we're talking about the Muskerpert as a whole, and then the time frame during the fall where the board game happens, the races didn't mix. They didn't commingle. It was not a thing that was done. So it would be a very taboo thing, which would also make it very sought after. Because, people
Maybe.
tend
Looks like
to
we're getting a question.
fiend for what they can't have. Your little nerd, like there is some redness on the cheeks of our
I don't know
Proctor
what
right
he
now.
knows. He's like, I don't know what he's even asking.
Proctor's not the right word. More like coordinator. Better word. Yeah. I don't think we need an official title for Ian.
For Ian.
Yeah.
He's the Ian.
He's the guy behind the scenes.
He's the
He
guy
is-
in the chair.
He is our guy in the chair. Absolutely.
All right, let's see. It's wherever you go.
It's okay. Oh, okay. So if you want to go get yourself some of the most delicious milk in the world from a Minotaur, you're gonna have to go to Sergath. And it's gonna be on the outskirts of Sergath. It's not gonna be like in the major city. You're not gonna walk into the major city and be like, "I'm here for my minnow milk." It ain't gonna happen that way.
I don't think they have a
we don't-
specific term for it, but you can make your own.
I do like it.
House.
So when you run your campaign, when we release that tabletop RPG, bro, you can name it. I mean, I'm excited to hear Davy's House of Milk be a thing.
That's what it's gonna be.
Yeah,
called.
we're gonna
Davy's
call
House
it
of Milk.
Dave the Minotaur and his House of Milk.
So
Not yet.
there is not currently a Savarion wiki.
We probably should put one up. That's a huge suggestion. Much appreciated.
Yeah,
Holy heck.
absolutely.
We
Yeah,
have all the
we'll
stuff.
start
You
working.
just don't have a site for it.
Well, that's easy to get. We can
yeah.
take care of that.
Yeah.
But we will start working on that soon.
Yeah, might as well. We have some holiday downtime, so
Yeah.
we can
I can't say it'll happen today,
no
but it'll happen soon.
happily scoop up a wiki for you, bro. That's a great suggestion. Thank
Yes, appreciate that.
you. Oh, all right.
Kyle enjoyed that
All right,
question.
so we're gonna keep going with the Muskerpert
Okay.
for now. I mean,
We got
it's
one
fine.
more? Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right. I see how this is gonna go. You're looking for some material to glean. Okay.
I like
So how does the government structure for the Muskerperts work?
Okay. You want me to take this one, or do you
Yeah,
got?
yeah,
Okay.
you can take it.
So the Muskerpert are designed where they have their leader is called the Sophet, and they have a council that is representative of each individual magic school. So there's different schools or temples of magic, and the head of those, or the most powerful of those, is who determines who sits in those seats. It's not actually like I'm a politically minded individual, so I'm going to sit in this seat. It is literally just all the heads of the schools, all the masters of the elements come together with one representative chosen, and they all come into council. And the Sophet would ask the questions, and the Shofet, right? It's SH. The Shofet, yep. The Shofet would ask the questions, and then the council would put their input in, and so you would have, like I said, one from each representation, so 8 seats, and then Mundinus creates the 9th. So then all of a sudden Mundinus is like, "What's up, guys? I made magic. Give me a seat."
How do they decide who's in charge?
So
they,
this
like,
one would be
fight each
based
other?
on competency.
Mm-hmm.
So the political structure of the Muskerperts is less about politics, the way that we talk about politics in our world, and a lot of the races in Savarion would have politics in the way that we all understand politics, where it's about convincing everybody and voting and all that kind of stuff. The Muskerpert, however, are purely based on competency. So whoever's the best fire mage would be the head of the fire council, and whoever's the best arcanist would be the head of the arcane council, right? And so amongst those, right, you would have the oldest and most competent at the top of each one of those. When a new Shofet was chosen, it would be whoever's the most competent at that point amongst all of the different councils.
How do they decide who's the most competent? Do they
It
fight
would be a
each other,
showcase
or
of-
do they have a light show? Or
It would be accomplishments coming up through class, and then the ability to showcase as well. So you would be displaying your capabilities. So it doesn't matter how destructive it is, because fire tends to be more destructive. If you were able to just incinerate whole sections of flora and fauna and water, there would be a spot for that. And then the swamp being a god-given thing, it would recover quickly. But you would showcase that, and if anybody could top that, it wouldn't be a one, like, for the magics, it wouldn't be combat. For the martial, absolutely, it's going to be a combat. You are going to have a tournament-style one-on-one fight to showcase who's going to be the best in their branch, and that's there's no other way to do it.
well, yeah, punching a tree doesn't sound like it would
No.
get you very high.
Not particularly.
No,
But with the age span of the Muskerperts, which is up to like 1,000 years,
1,000 plus, yeah.
1,000 plus years, you'd have the head of the Dark Council, like, and he would know, or she would know, probably she. But in any case, the odds of knowing who the predecessor is really, really high, because they're 987 years old, and they've been around, and they've been doing this, and they've been demonstrating their competency for ages at this point. And so it's like, okay, my turn, like, I die, and it's like, okay, there's like
A
one
contest.
person who could be, or maybe 2 or 3 who are even qualified to step into that, and then those 3 would showcase. So it wouldn't be like this huge competition where everybody who has any dark magic would show up. You'd kind of know, like, these 3 people are the only ones that would even qualify.
Okay. So you said probably she. Is it a matriarchal society?
Good
It is,
catch.
yeah.
Absolutely. Solid
So
catch.
this is a female-driven race. I
don't know
guess
if
female-led.
driven is the right, but
Female-led,
led,
yep.
yes. So
Females
I mean,
in the... Go ahead.
most people understand the difference between a matriarchy and a patriarchy, but in a matriarchy, the female in that world exists as the authority. And so as a general rule of thumb, and there would obviously be some exceptions to this rule, but as a general rule of thumb, right, the female in the Muskerpert world play the role of the one who is the provider and protector of that society would be the females in the Muskerpert world. And so they would logically, more often than not, be in a position of leadership, because the males in the Muskerpert world are less likely to be going to their school and learning, and more likely to be at home taking care of the children and cooking and stuff like that. And so in Savarion, the patriarchy matriarchy roles are really dynamic, where if it is a matriarchy, they're the ones going out and
Depending on what
working.
race you are.
Yep.
Yeah. And so that's how that would work. And this is our first created race in Savarion, is the Muskerperts, and they are female led.
Okay. What is the Davy to Doe look like?
Day to day.
Day to day. Okay.
Okay. We definitely it's my fault. We got started a little bit behind, so we don't usually have the time to really do a little more prep work. So
Yeah.
that's my bad.
So what does a day in the life of a Muskerpert look like?
Well, I mean, you want to start from like the hatchling, like the
We gotta
not
start
really
from the
hatchling,
Davy
but
to
start
the
from the
doe.
youngling. What's up?
We gotta start from the Davy to the Doe.
The Davy to the doe. All right.
Okay, yeah.
So the Davy is
how-
busy milking minotaurs. All right.
No. Okay, so
what is
from
the-
birth to death, how do they conduct their lives?
I mean, it is kind of fun because they are in a swamp, right? So their houses are all on stilts, and they travel by gondolas or boats, or if you're talented enough, you can walk across the water or freeze your pathway. Like, you can kind of manipulate that way around. And then the cities are built up, and so you can walk across there, and they have bazaars and all sorts of cool stuff. But the day-to-day is you're going to wake up, and you're going to do your house chores, you're going to get your work done, and as most kids do, they're going to play. They're going to come together, and they're going to play with their friends, and they're going to mime different stories from history, stories from their heroes, their favorite, like, laudable things. So you can have guys out there being like, yeah, I'm the Muskerpert Super Queen, and you're a silly human, and I'm going to zap you with my fire. Pa-pow! And stuff like that. It's like the games that kids would play would be like that. Or like, I'm a master of the martial skill set, and you're a silly minotaur, and I don't care how big you are. Ka-ching, I win. Yeah,
Like kids do.
exactly. Like kids play. And so, like, it would kind of fluctuate as far as that goes. But their chores would also be things like going out and picking fruit with dad, like going out in the fields with dad and helping to pick fruit, because they would have to cultivate their own food sources, and the swamp provides. And you're going to have luscious, delicious, sweet fruit. You're going to have lots of meat to eat from different animals that are out and about for you to acquire and hunt. And
So would be seeing a male in the schools be more rare, or
No.
just the males have a choice, school or homework, or
no, because I mean, that doesn't really change until they have a home to cultivate, right? So they would have once they got married, effectively had a pairing with somebody, whatever ceremony they choose, and oftentimes you would meet that person either at school or out and about, and not everyone is paired in the same school. But then suddenly the male has a choice of, do I want to keep doing this until a child is born? And our men are not. These aren't like a seahorse group. They're not the ones getting pregnant and carrying the babies. But they definitely would prepare the home and prepare everything like that once that was moving on. So they would move into that next step in their life. And if they chose to leave school at that point in time, absolutely, it wouldn't be a problem. But they could still continue to pursue their studies.
So you said something about an egg. Would the father or the mother take care of the egg?
No egg. That was the bad joke.
No egg?
There's no eggs. They carry babies full to term and have live birth.
Okay.
Yeah.
So no egg.
No eggs.
egg.
There's no
Okay.
hatchlings. That was a mistake in my verbiage because too many other lizard people are hatchlings. I've been playing too much Skyrim. But so then you have that. And so yeah, there'll be plenty of males and females at school will be intermingled, intermixed. Doesn't really make a difference there. And like I said, it's a choice based on when that person decides, okay, I'm done with my studies. I've reached where I want to be, or I've achieved what I want. My focus is now my home. And that's when a male would potentially go off and either build or create a home. I mean, obviously there's mundanes who can just create shelter out of essence and make it thing. And so you could have a showcase of like, hey, you want to be mine because I can make you the most extravagant house. Watch this. And it would be interesting. But yeah, it would be a kind of a showcase of here's my magical skill sets. And even though there is no necessarily biological influence as far as who's going to be a stronger individual within essence or magic. It wouldn't change the fact that that would be how you would showcase and prowess. And so if you were doing really well in school and like being top dog as a guy, that's going to be like, ooh, I like that one.
So your magic, like how far you progress with your magic, is basically how good of a girl you're gonna get.
It definitely adds
and
to
the
your
girl
attractiveness.
picks the guy.
Yes, the
Okay.
girl would be the one that
So the
would
guy's
propose.
just peacock.
Effectively, yeah. Check my
Okay.
skills, bro. Hey, baby, check these skills out. And you're like, okay, you're adequate. Or, ooh, I like that.
So before the goblins introduced currency, would they trade magical favors, or
yeah, you'd have still craftsmen, because you would have whole things where they
you'd
would
have house builders?
Yeah, you'd have, before Mundunus created shelter crafting, you would have house builders who would go out there and they would toil under hard labor. They would build up their stilts and then put their planking down, or they'd get the materials they needed, and they could create necklaces, jewelry, fine things, just depending on what they chose to pursue. Because you would have your core school studies, and then you would have extracurriculars that were yours.
Trade doesn't actually require a currency.
Nope.
No, it
So-
doesn't. But what kinds of things would they trade before there was currency?
So yeah, you would be like, hey, I can
Services.
make you this necklace if you help me build my shelter because you're an earth mage and I'm a fire mage, so I can work a kiln with more accuracy and melt the sand into glass and make something beautiful for someone that you want. And so yeah, you would trade favors and services and goods.
So who was the main, who was the fall leader? Who
Oh,
was
the
your
leader during the fall?
important name
Uh-huh.
of the Muskerperts?
Bakoa is the last leader as Shofet, effectively, because once the fall happens, this whole society intermingles and things change. That's when you start getting the kingdoms.
Well, there would be
A
it
little
would have
bit of
been
time.
reintroduced after the Horakai brought them back.
Yep.
Before the affirmation, so it would have existed till the affirmation, but
The last notable Shofet would have been Bakoa, because during that time frame there weren't a whole lot of conflict issues because the Horakai ruled with an iron fist, and until the 9 races rose up again against the Horakai, there was no conflict. Conflict breeds greatness.
and during the rebirth, the Shofet would have been somebody who had 50 years of experience, whereas Bukua, when she took over, when she became the leader, she had hundreds of years of experience.
She was she was in charge. There's a whole series called the Broken Campaign where we talked about the Broken a little bit, where they effectively tried to rise up and take over the world, and they made havoc and they attacked all the different races separately. It was kind of hard. It was a really cool thing, but then eventually all the 9 races come together, and Bakoa led that army. It wasn't a Samgatu, it was a Muskerpert, and she was the hero and the leader of that time frame.
What was
This was 500 years before the fall kicks off.
Yep.
So Bukua leads the army that the 9 races build to fight against the Broken. She leads that army 500 years before the fall happens. She's a prodigy in her own right, but her ability to access fire magic is literally second to none.
so her affinity is fire?
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
she's
Okay.
she's a fire monster. It's the best way.
100%.
Oh yeah. She actually created, so in the role-playing game, there's the tier 6, which is like the top tier magic until you hit godlike power and can make a tier 7. Tier 7s are still a work in progress as we finalize those. But she created the tier 6 that became the standard for every other fire mage after the
Joke
fact.
about that is channeling the sun, but
Not
Dropping
anymore.
this.
She no longer channels the sun. We had to make that go away because the idea of refracting a lens to bring the damage
really
it would
just
do. Yeah.
A pillar of fire that they create.
A
That's
pillar of
huge
white
pillar
hot
of
flame
fire.
that she can move at will.
yeah, but it still looks like you're channeling the sun to anyone not.
It feels like you're
Right. It's a laser beam.
Iron laser.
So that was absolute prodigy. She ends up utilizing that magic in the fall to decimate the home of the elves. Like, she gets real mad. She goes mad and gets real mad.
Yeah.
So-
Like, she's also crazy.
Yeah, that
She's crazy, or she becomes crazy.
becomes crazy.
Yeah. So because she's a prodigy in her own right with fire magic, she'd also be really aware. Like her ability to know what was going on and like be aware of herself and all of that would be a necessity because of her natural affinity to have access to fire magic in a way that no one else ever had and no one else ever will. I mean, she could actually go toe to toe with Ayala, right? Like her magic set is so powerful, and Ayala's the first Muskerpert, right? And no, is he some Gatu?
No, he's Muskerpert.
He's a
You didn't
Muskerpert.
say it.
Yeah,
He's a Muskerpert.
He's a Muskerpert. But
weird
like
you
she,
didn't say
she'd
it.
actually have the
You're right,
ability
'cause
to
he's a
fight
dirtbag.
him, right? Yeah. So she's
Good catch.
quite powerful. And so Theranik, the Horakai that took over leadership of the Horakai when Nargoth died, right? When he started his plan for how he was going to disrupt everything, right? So he sees Bukua, and she's going to take over the Muskerperts. Like as soon as the Shofet dies, right, from the Broken Wars, 500 years before the fall, she's in line. Like as soon as she leads that army, for sure, there's no question. Nobody can influence that. She's taking over as soon as the Shofet dies. So that Shofet dies, and she takes over, right? But because she's self-aware and so powerful, right, he's going, okay, what do I do to influence her? Because she's been a leader over the 9 armies. How's she gonna?
She's very
participate?
confident and doesn't seek the Horikai's support or assistance.
Right. And so he essentially promotes. Is it how did you say that? It's
Losia and Rosia.
Losia and Rosia.
They're twins, which is rare.
Twins, but one of them is the keeper of the light and one of them is the master of the dark. And so Theranik uses them because the keeper of light and master of dark are essentially like, if you think the council and then you have like the small council, the light and dark mage leaders are the small council. And so those two would be so close to
Ding dong.
they'd be so close to Bukua that they'd have direct personal interference with her life, right? As opposed to the rest of them having influence over the decisions that are made for the kingdom. Like they would have direct influence over who she is as a person, right? And so he uses those two as the light and dark to mess with Bukua's mind and make her go crazy.
Slowly.
They poison her mind.
Yeah.
So that's how Theranik gets involved with
Drive her
all that.
insane to the point where she just gets pissed at the elves.
So there is some conflict there because the elves are second born, right? And
So the next episode is going to be
we're going
elves.
to talk about the elves, and there's an actual kind of frustration there where that's exacerbated by her insanity, where there's a frustration of why do the elves even need to be a thing when they are the masters of magic as Muskerpert and the firstborn. The world of Savarion should be their charge, and so that kind of becomes the thing. Plus, she's tired of not seeing the sun. She's a fire mage. She can feel the heat of the sun, knows it's there, but can't see it directly, and so she's tired of living in the dark and they deserve to be in the sunlight and the lush green.
And she sees that the elves took it from them.
She sees like the elves have that space and that should be theirs, and so she leads her people to an insane war instead of chilling. Yeah, it's a goofy spot because that's what ended up happening. That's how the insanity affected her, because she started to feel the heat, the pull of the suns, and wanted to be able to experience them directly, and that really heavily influenced. Plus, yeah, jealousy.
Is this what drew her into the fall of Savarion? Was these two twins?
Absolutely, 100%. Their continued influence on her in their personal council, because they were her best friends and closest council. And they would continuously poison her food and her drink and keep making her insane and poison her ideas, because he had the Master of Dark, who that gives him access to manipulation, and so he can speak a very strong suggestion to her on a consistent basis and quiet.
Is one of them a guy, or are they both girls?
Both girls.
Both guys?
Both girls, yep.
Okay.
They're twin sisters.
Oh.
I said he, didn't I?
You did.
I did,
but
that's
that's
my
okay.
bad. No.
Twin sisters.
Okay.
Losi and the Rosi are twin sisters. And so she, in their quiet council, would be utilizing that manipulation magic to influence Bakoa into, the elves have something, we should have that. The elves aren't necessary. We can fulfill that. We should eliminate them. We're better than them. That kind of stuff. It's like that consistent, not as outright as I made it, but very small, very subtle, very quiet,
So,
and
like,
manipulation-infused hints.
Years of this?
Years of a lead up. Because once she becomes Shofet, it is Theranik who props the twins up, kind of removes the opposition and helps them solidify their capability. And it's awful. Like it's so unfortunate.
So, Bukoa helps with annihilating most of the elves.
Mhm.
Does she annihilate anyone else? How does she fall?
Her insanity drives them into a corner where they refuse to go back home. They get caught in a blizzard and get wiped out by the halflings, I believe, is what ends up happening.
I thought it was the goblins. We'll have to do some research.
Yeah,
on that
no, it might be
specifically.
because the goblins were fixated on getting Durzan. They wanted the home of the elves.
One of the little peoples killed them.
Yeah.
Yes, it was one of
Well,
the short ones.
So let me just real quick, so that people are like, but you guys came up with the story. How do you not know the answer to this? So, the story of the fall, which tribe or which race fought against which race, which one won, all that kind of movement that happens during the fall of Savarion in the story, not the board. Like when people play the board game, it'll, however they play it will be how it plays. But the very, very first time we played the board game all the way through with all 9 races, I followed who attacked who and when, who destroyed who and when, and I tracked that all. And then the story, as it goes, when the stories are written, and right now when we're talking about it, and we'll cover it more in depth, the actual fall and the series of events, but the way that happened legitimately happened the first time we played the board game. So when the dwarves are attacking, or when the goblins are attacking Durzan, like in the timeline purpose, that legitimately happened the first time we played the board game.
The Muskerpert leader was a fire mage?
Well,
No, that one is just because Bakoa was established before the game was played. So we didn't really. It wasn't really following who did what as far as their army structure. Just which army attacked which army at what point,
Right.
and who got the kill.
And so,
stuff.
spoiler alert, the first race that was destroyed were the elves. And the Muskerpert leader marched on the elf capital and wiped them out. Like, it was pretty quick. And so that's how it went when we played the board game the first time. The person who was playing the Muskerperts marched to the elf homeland immediately. And
the elves were getting fought on 2 fronts, too. You had the Muskerpert and the halflings both fighting for that elven speed. That's what they both wanted. They wanted that move.
And the Muskerpert did enough damage that the halflings basically just walked in and finished them off. But because of Bukua's insanity, she didn't finish them off. Like, they did most of the damage and then
Couldn't finish.
got petrified and
Someone
couldn't
came and
finish
stole
and
their
left.
kill.
And Sorona stole their kill.
We had 9 people who played the board game
Is this the one
consistently.
with the insane minotaur?
Oh, we can go in the same minute. We'll
We'll do that when we talk
Yeah.
about the Minotaur.
Yeah, I like
the
him.
insane Minotaur who just did his thing.
Rinstari. Yes, when we talk about the Minotaur, we'll talk about him.
He's a fun character.
Well, absolutely. But yeah, following like the 9 people who I'm definitely going to give shout outs to when I Jeff worked with them most closely. I was all the way across the country just writing and rewriting and re-revising the rules.
Right. And so I want to give a shout out to the person who played the elves in Muskerpert. Unfortunately,
We'll do that.
they only participated the very first time.
Oh,
I don't have record of who played that
Dang.
very first time because I was tracking like all of that kind of stuff, and I was like, I won't forget these, the rest of this information. And it's like, okay, 16 months later, we're still playing the board game, and like a couple of them are still playing, and we have people who joined in the 4th or 5th month that were playing pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a catalog of the person who played that role at the very first. So
Okay.
when we do our shout outs, there's a couple of shout outs that I want to specifically give out for people who were really, really regular and played a couple of different races. But the person who played the race the very first time around, I don't remember who played which race.
So if you guys remember that, you feel free
Yeah,
to shout it out
if
to
you're
us.
on and you remember the very first time
Heck yeah.
through, and the elves, that person didn't show up. So that part of the story, that's why they got destroyed so quickly and
That's
all
right.
that, is because that person decided last minute they weren't going to be there. And I was already playing one of the 9 races. So there was only 9 of us, including me. And so I couldn't jump in at that point.
How
So
long
he
ago
didn't.
was this? Like, just for reference, like, you don't have a bad memory.
2012.
Yep.
It
while.
would have been. So we started developing the game. The early development of the game started in like October, November of 2012, and the first time we sat down and had a playthrough with 9 people. I guess 8, because the elf guy didn't show up. But the first time it got played through full with everybody and all that kind of stuff was early spring of 2013. Would have been when we started playing it. And again, if anybody is watching this or comes in and watches it at a later date and they're like, I was at that first one, I remember that, please, like, if you remember which race you were during that,
Oh yeah.
let me know, send me a message, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out, because I want to. I just did not catalog that, and we had probably 50 different people play the game through the 16 months that we trialed it.
Yeah.
So
It definitely phased through. I mean, it's a transient community in the whole, because it's the military, so people come and people go, things come up. There's FTXs. There's yeah. So it's a thing.
yeah,
I was there. I did not help with any of the play through.
No, you definitely help with the setup and the hosting, though.
Yeah, I
colored
colored.
at that time. You were really young.
I was, but the first time you did a role playing game, I
You were
remember
like 5.
coloring
Dang.
the sheets. You made the circles and I colored them in, and I was so happy that you let me color in the things for your very first role play.
Heck yeah.
And
So we need to start wrapping it up pretty soon. But I did want to talk about Azeral and the
Azrael's so cool.
yeah.
The home of the Muskerperts.
We didn't talk about it, but the home of the Muskerperts, and like, again, I want to cover this again. We did a little bit with the creation story, which we haven't released yet, so
It's coming out. It's there.
It'll be
so
out.
there will be some overlap with those. But when you think about a swamp, right? Most people, because of the way swamps are in our world, think
Decay.
like
Sorry, yeah. Keep going.
yeah, decay, but like Louisiana area,
Or the-
Florida,
Yep, Florida.
swampland, stuff like that. Like, that's what people think when they think swamps. It's like brown trees and a real low water. Some areas are more deep, and there's alligators in the water and all that kind of stuff, right?
Florida.
That's what people think, right? When you say swamp. So when we say swamp, with the world of Savarion, I want you to think a lot more like the best way I can describe it is Pandora from the Avatar movie.
The Blue
not
People
the
Avatar.
Blue Man Avatar movie, not the Last Airbender.
That never
movie.
happened.
That
Okay.
movie.
That movie
didn't-
does
Well,
not
but-
exist.
But we
The show
understand.
does.
Like, when I say
Sorry.
Avatar, people are gonna think the Last Airbender, and it's
No.
like, well, okay, that story is fantastic, but that's not what I'm referring
Yeah,
to.
no.
Think about like
Like a
when
wet forest.
Jake Sully is at night the very first time, and he's got his light, and then he puts it out, and all the light comes up and shows, and you like see light. I want you to think that when we talk about Swampland in Savarion. It's not exactly the same because it's completely canopied. So it doesn't matter if it's day or night. It's 100% of the time bioluminescent. Things glow in the dark. The plants glow. There's purples and blues and greens and all kinds of stuff. And so it's extremely vibrant, but it's constantly no sun.
Yep.
Okay. But when you envision it, think night on Pandora in the Avatar movie. That's the closest thing that I can think of.
And that's how they consistently live.
Yeah, and we have a picture of it on our of Azeral
Yeah,
on the Instagram page and the Facebook
Facebook.
page. So if you want to see that, you can. But there's a pyramid, and then there's branches out. So if you think the pyramid is where the council exists, that's like the main city area. And then when you go out from those main city areas, you have the different
Schools.
not so much the school area itself, but like the home of the like the house of the school. And then the area beyond that would be where the school participates and does its thing. And so that's how it's designed. That's how Azeral is built. But I kept seeing that, like, I'm even seeing the wrong swampland when I say swamp.
That's
so
fair.
I want people, when they're thinking about a Savarion swamp, to think about
Bright.
a bioluminescent, beautiful blues, purples, greens.
It's
under.
luscious.
Yeah. So.
So more like jungle swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A really
jungle swamp.
wet forest.
Yes.
A really wet forest that never sees the light of day.
Rainy season in the Amazon. When that's
Way
gonna
too
be
much
close.
canopy.
Wait.
There is no sun, just bright white light or bright lights that produce the UV necessary to grow, flourish, and still. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would the residents be outside of where the schools are, or would they be in between, or both?
You'd
All over the
live
place.
all over the place.
Yeah. So if you're working in the school,
So if
you're
you
living.
look in a
Go ahead.
different direction, you just see a house.
Yeah, you would see because you would have people homestead wherever they wanted to because you have the major city, which is the hub of everything, and then you'd also have like small villages. People would branch off and kind of go do their own thing.
Okay.
It's totally a viable thing. Like the entire land of Azeral is not just this. Well, Azeral is a city, but there's also a land, the Muskerpert homeland, where it's going to be completely covered by this canopy, and so they would branch out throughout the entirety of the swamp, and they would have small communities that just weren't notable because they just weren't.
Well, yeah, that's
And honestly, after the Vagog's introduction and the corruption of the world, branching off like that became more dangerous. You became more vulnerable with less people, and you would be more susceptible to being attacked by other more creatures, raiding parties, people who were Vagog devotees who were just fully insane, cults. That kind of stuff would pop up and just eliminate small towns.
I'm seeing a really common factor of insanity.
Kind
Particular. Well,
Vagog,
There's just a lot of notable insane people.
not
well,
just
Ayala and
Bukua.
Bukua.
Well, Lila's not insane. He's misguided.
That's true.
He's
He's
a
not
dirtbag.
insane.
So you have Bukwa, the insane minotaur.
And there's the insane Minotaur, which
He's a fun
that's
story. We'll talk about it.
Deeply trenched story.
Yep.
Shout out to Chris. That was him. I remember Christian Price is the guy's name that played that role. And I remember that because he worked across the hall from me, and he came and he was part of it like a whole bunch of times. So he and I actually had conversations about the insane Minotaur. So I remember that. So Christian Price, shout out to him.
Elliot part of it?
No.
No?
So
Joke about him taking forever, so I assumed.
no.
No, Elliot's
No.
good people. He's still in Spain, I believe.
Yeah, I don't know.
All happily married and stuff.
But
yeah. Shout out to Chris.
Shout out to Christian. So, so we're gonna have to wrap up. We're running out of time. But, guy in the chair, Ian, do we have any other questions? Okay.
All right. I think we definitely got sidetracked. I was not prepared to answer questions about the Moo House, so that was
all good.
phenomenal.
It's all good.
Appreciate it, Dave. And then
so-
just the Muskerpert as a whole. I'm excited for people to get to explore them more, and we'll definitely put the wiki up so that there's more that you can reference, not just have to sift through hours of wonderful content of Jeff and Corbin and sometimes Taylor and I all rambling about awesomeness.
So, real quick, and then we'll go. Reminder on, is today Tuesday? Or
Yes, today's Tuesday.
Okay, so Thursday, every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 o'clock Mountain Standard, we're
for
doing the
Christmas
live.
week.
Except for the week between Christmas, we won't be doing the live. But other than that, we'll be here. We'll be live. So join us again on Thursday. And thanks for.
Absolutely.
There are
being
some
part of it.
questions we'll answer.
Oh yeah, and don't forget to check out the Instagram and the Facebook. I think the links are attached to the Facebook page and the more info, right?
Yes.
Excellent. Yeah, check it out. Give them the follow. Help us out. Get this moving. All right, guys. Much appreciated.
Love having y'all here. Bye.
Bye.